back to Off the Roll Podcast, episode 19, RWBs with Joe Aime. We're here with STEK Michael and, of course, Joe Aime, the man and the visionary behind this beautiful RWB sitting behind us. Now, we've had a little bit of a journey with this RWB already, but we wanted to get Joe on the podcast to tell his story and kind of his vision behind the car, and kind of just learn a little bit more about the RWB. It is quite a big scene, especially here in Seattle. It's a cool event that we're at. We're at Griots Garage in Tacoma, and they're actually doing a triple RWB build event. So this is the final day of it, and what better time to snag some time away from Joe. So, Joe, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. Well, I want to say thank you for having me. I want to say also that this is my first time doing a podcast, so, you know, you're kind of popping my cherry with this, but...
Yeah, excited to bear with you as well.
But as far as, like, my backstory and even getting into the whole RWB thing, I've been a huge fan of this. I mean, with RWB and Brent and Nakai and everything, I'd probably say for, probably going back at least 15 years, you know. I really wanted one since I first seen them in magazines. This is right before the internet blew up, and I was just like, I got to get one, you know. And then, I mean, fast forward now, I got one now.
Yeah,
so it's pretty cool. Yeah,
and it's getting some pretty good attention out here at the show too. If you guys can't tell, it is matte and is actually protected in our DYNOmatte paint protection film as well. Right. But that sheen ended up being really, really close to the paintwork that Brian out at Fantasy Colors knocked out for you. So. Have you always been a car guy? What first got you across that WRB, 15 years ago?
So I mean, since I was probably like 3 years old, I've been a car guy. Like my mom would tell you stories of like putting me in front of the TV in front of NASCAR, and that was the only way that like I would not move because I'll just be glued to the TV. So she already knew, like, you know, and I always wanted the like little Hot Wheels cars and Matchbox cars and stuff. So, but when I was able to drive and able to afford cars, I started like, you know, building cars. And of course you start small. And I just kind of just graduated from each car. I've been through a lot of cars, I would say, more than a lot of people have, which is, I'm very thankful for that I've been able to do that as well. But yeah, like the RWB was like one of my bucket list cars to do.
What car did you start with?
Oh, my very first car that I bought ever was a 1994 Nissan Altima SE manual, and I didn't even know how to drive manual.
Yeah. Well, you got to jump in the deep end sometimes.
Right. And I blew that clutch in like 2 days trying to learn how to drive manual, and it worked out.
And who was your teacher?
Actually, it was a best friend of mine who had the same car that his dad gifted to him from brand new, and he was driving manual. He used to drive it to school in like our senior year of school. And I used to just watch him from the passenger seat, just watch his footwork and stuff like that because his dad told him, and that was it. And that's really how I picked it up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, obviously, a handful of years later, we have this RWB. And so when did your journey with this car start? What's kind of the story behind the build so far? What are obviously, the RWB, work and kit's already been installed. We got some film on it. Also, Dyno Damascus, which we'll show you guys some close-ups on.
Yeah.
So it's coming together really, really well. But what was kind of the steps you had to take to get to this? How long have you had the car? How long were you shopping? And when did you know that, all right, this is the car I'm going to do it with?
So the funny part about this, and this is the crazy part, is that my journey with this car specifically has been short. Okay. But I've been on the RWB journey for years. And the reason why is because the initial car that I got, which was 993 which is the same chassis, back in 2019, that was my startup for the RWB. So I started modifying that car, I started getting it ready, I got on the list, and I was excited, and then, do you remember what happened the following year? COVID. COVID hit. So the world practically shut down. And, the borders were closed, and Nakai couldn't travel, and it was like devastating to when I'm like, now I can do this.
Yeah, you're finally ready.
Yeah, and then with this whole thing with COVID, it was just like, come on, man, you can't be serious, right? And it was like I kind of like, I felt defeated, you know what I mean? And I got to a point like during COVID, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I was like, you know what, maybe it's a sign for me just to like move on. You know what I mean? Maybe it wasn't meant for me to have one. Like all this time I've been. Yeah. So funny, to make it short, I met Roger, who's a good friend of mine. He's a Porsche GM out locally to me.
Yeah, I was chatting with him yesterday.
In New Jersey. And he's like a big fan. And, long story short, he ended up buying the whole build for me. The kit, the car, the wheels, everything. The car was ready to go. It was just waiting for Nakai. And I walked away from it. I was like, you know what, just gonna walk away from it. I accepted the defeat, you know. I was like, I'm happy for him. And then when the Kai started traveling again, I was like, oh man, I kind of regret it. Like seller's remorse, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, but at the same time, me and Brian were close friends. You know what I mean? So,
and Brian of Fantasy Colors.
Brian of Fantasy Colors, who's hosting this build right now, who's having a triple build.
Yeah.
And, you know, chatting with him one evening, and, you know, he could see that I was like, kind of like, I was like saddened by it. Yeah. And he was like, well, funny enough, ironically, he's like, you know, last night I was talking to my wife about selling, and he had 4 cars that on the pipeline to build.
Dang.
Yeah. And one of them is this car, but nothing done to it yet. The kit was already ordered. The kit was here, but there was no paint, no mods, nothing.
Yeah.
So
and for our viewers too, what is the base car? That's
it's a 1995 Porsche 911 was 911, of course, but it's a 993 chassis, which is the last of the air cooled, and it's also a C2, so it's also rear wheel drive, but it's NA, narrow body. So that's the base.
And did it come manual?
Yes, yes, it came manual. Both cars, the one I had before was a C4, which was an all-wheel drive. So I was happy that I went from all-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive because I really wanted rear-wheel drive. But that all-wheel drive, I got it for like a steal of a price back then. And you know, you don't see those numbers anymore now. But people watching should know. Yeah.
Jumping in on the deep end.
Right. So
cool.
Brian basically, you know, he offered it to me, and the number was great, and I was like, let's do it. And that's what got me back into this whole thing, and full circle, look where we at now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And did Brian already have the kit and everything ready to go? Yeah.
So the kit, he was already on the list, but the kit wasn't shipped to him yet because of COVID. Because we couldn't, you couldn't get anything imported, right? Yeah. So I got mine through an amazing, crazy story of doing that. But basically, a close buddy of mine lived in Japan through the military. They was shipping, they was flying. You know, he was coming back to move back to the States, and he shipped my kit from Nakai. Awesome. with his furniture back to the States, and that's how I got my kit during
in a timely manner.
Yeah, right when COVID hit. Yeah, so, but fast forward, we got the kit, and I mean, it's crazy. But just the icing on the cake was that both cars were built at the same time as a double build. So I got this.
And this was Roger's car, right? The original one.
My original one.
Yeah.
Cool. So we hosted a double build at the dealership at the Porsche Inglewood. And both cars were side by side, so I got to see both of my visions come to life. So it almost felt like I had two, you know?
Yeah.
It was, so it was awesome.
You were a little, distraught, and then it got extra sweet there.
Yeah. But
awesome.
it goes to show how full circle how sometimes, like, things might not work out the way you wanted to. And even my friends would, like, tell me, like, oh, you're going to regret selling it. Don't sell it. And then I sold it. And then I, like, full circle, like, I feel like this build even turned out even bigger because with the double build, now we're going to SEMA. Yeah. Sitting here with you right now, I feel like none of that probably would have happened if I was still with that first car.
The C4.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm curious, so how does that process typically go? Was all the body kit painted, the car painted, and then it was assembled, or was it fully assembled and then painted? Because I will say there's a variety of very cool RWB builds here, a lot of different colors. Yeah. But the purple's kind of taking my heart. It's kind of my favorite. I've heard some other people chatting too. This is, I think this is one of the cooler cars here. So obviously pretty unique paint color. What made you decide that? What was that process kind of like? And then when in that order did it happen? Was it before or after the kit was actually on the car?
So as far as the process goes to get on the list, you have to pay for the kit in full. And then you send it to Nakai. And it's like you're sending literally,
some people's life savings.
Over to an account in Japan that you have no idea, and you're just like, I was very nervous about doing that. But once you get on the list, the kits are made to order, and then you take a few months, and then when the kits are made, then they're shipped out to you. So the process is you paint the car and the kit together before Nakai shows up. So when Nakai shows up, he just literally all his part is just literally putting the kit onto the car.
Yeah.
So
as we saw, just cutting into the car and totally defacing it before he refaces it, if you will.
Right. And the transformation happens over 2 days, and it's crazy to see the process in 2 days happen because you've been around the stock body of the car for so long, and then in like 2 days it transforms into this, and you're just like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
But even as far as the color, the base behind the color, like I've always, like my favorite Porsche PTS color was Viola Purple Metallic.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I were to get a brand new GT3, how would I spec it out? Mm-hmm. And I've always had it in my head, like if I was to get an allocation, this is exactly what I would do. And when I was discussing it with Brian, I told Brian, I said, with this build, I want to go so far from the first car that I think I want to do like a color change. Yeah. And Brian and the team at Fantasy Colors were awesome. Also BASF, which, you know, that's Glasser paint and stuff like that. They were, you know, they helped us out. And we went initially the base color was the Viola Purple Metallic. And of course, Brian is like out of the box, Fantasy Colors. He's like, dude, I do custom colors here. Let's kind of like change it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I trust
that
you.
paint stick.
Yeah. I was like, I trust you. So he mixed it around. He played with the colors a little bit, and then he added more pearl and stuff like that. And then in the last hour, he said, hey, let's do matte clear. And I was like, nah.
I don't know. Yeah, I've had this vision for forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what Brian said. Brian said, you know, most people's eyes are trained for gloss cars because that's what you normally see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Matte is kind of out of the box, right? He said just kind of like separate yourself from that. And also, with all the pearls that he did and everything that he did and with that purple, this is exact words what he said. He said, I don't know what the matte clear is going to do to it, but I know it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I asked, you know, my close circle, my wife, everything, and they were like, just go for it. It's like, it's an RWB, just go for it. Yeah. And I'm so happy I did because the color came out sick.
Yeah.
Came out sick.
When you're doing the RWB, the point is to be a little bit over the top and stand out. And this is definitely a car that stands out.
Oh, yeah. So. And like most RWBs that you see, people tend to stick to the factory colors. You'll see like a lot of black, a lot of red, a lot of silver, or like white, which is fine, you know, because everybody has their preference, you know. Yeah. But me, I always felt like if I'm gonna get a 911, especially if I have an opportunity to like do like a PTS, I'm gonna do a PTS. You know what I mean? I think that's what pops. And all of us even people who don't own one, when they see one driving by and they see like a PTS 911, you kind of go crazy for it because you know there's a little bit added touch of like representation and like self-expression.
And personality.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah.
For sure. And I think even just like being around this car all weekend, it has a personality, it has that persona that, you know, it holds a presence out here, and it's, you know, it's different than any other build, and that's obviously from the paint color to do something like the Viola and then go matte with it. And I know there's kind of a funny story too. When we first started chatting, you reached out and you're like, hey, I have this, you know, RWB. It's matte, and I'm wanting to find a good matte film. Done my research, and I came across STEK. I think you guys are, you know, one of the better brands, which I appreciate the you know, faith and trust in us, of course. Yeah. But we went back and forth for a little bit. It was probably, you know, honestly multiple months that we were just talking, kind of starting to line up this event. And this car isn't from Washington. It's over on the East Coast, right? You're New Jersey?
I'm in New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah, New York City, man. Cool. So people don't see these in New York City.
Yeah.
It's like very rarely. So people go crazy. But yeah, we were going back and forth, and I'm very calculated when it comes to this stuff. Like, this is like my area of expertise. I almost feel like I'm like a fashion designer when it comes to like cars. Sure. You know, because I help a lot of friends put their cars together. But even as far as like, I knew I wanted to do the PPF on the car, and I've never done PPF on cars before. So this is the first time that I really dove into that space. But I did my full research, and I was like, STEK seems like the way to go. I was like, I have to go with STEK, because just the feedback and just seeing the product itself and things like that, I was like, you know. So reached out to you, you know, and we spoke about it. Because my biggest fear with this paint, because it was so unique, is that the film could change the hue or the texture of the paint, or whatever you want to call it, or even darken it, lighten it, or kind of lose that sheen. And I didn't want to do that. And initially, I was like gonna just do like the front end, like most people do, just a partial PPF,
full front.
And I was like, if you do that and it looks different from the paint, it's gonna look like the paint job is off. Like, people are gonna be like, what's wrong with that paint job, right? Yeah. And the paint is phenomenal. And I didn't want to take that away from Brian as well, and the team at Fantasy Colors, because they did such an amazing job. So I was really nervous, and me and you were talking about it, and I was like, I'm so nervous, man. I was like, I don't know how it's gonna look. I don't know what it's gonna do. Yeah. But man,
and I know we talked about sending a sample out to a local shop so you could have just like a piece on the hood or something, so you could see how it compares. But everyone's busy, and that didn't happen.
No,
and so you got the car transported all the way over here to Seattle in preparation of this event, and you got it sent over a little bit early so that Bryant Fantasy Colors could go through it, and then we had it dropped off at Prestige Auto Salon, which is one of our local installers out of SoDo or South Seattle area. So. Those guys got started on the mat, and you still didn't really know what it looked like. I know I put you in contact with Jack, the owner there, and he was FaceTiming you a little bit and saying good things. But until you see it in person, you don't really know, right? On your flight over here, where you're like rattling your brain, like, oh, how's this going to go? Am I going to regret this?
Oh my God! Like because it was like full send at that point, because like you said, we didn't have time. And then, because as you know, I drive the car. Like people who know me, I drive. This car doesn't get trailered. It doesn't go to events trailered. It's not hidden. Yeah. Like anybody in New York City who or people who just follow me or whatever, they see I drive the car. Like I drive it. I went to 3-hour stint drives and stuff like that. Sure. So it already had some rock chips and stuff like that. But at this point, I was like, I have to protect the paint. I really do. Yeah. Because it's such a unique color, such a unique process. But I was so nervous about it. And then the funny thing is that Jack FaceTimed me, and we were talking about. This is when the Damascus thing came up. Yeah. And we were just tossing an idea around there. And this is when I spoke to you about it first. And Jack FaceTimed me, and he was showing me the car, and he was like, oh, I'll put up a piece of the Damascus next to your canard so you can see what it is. And as he's doing that, I was like, oh, when are you going to start the PPF on the car? And he's like, oh, we did the doors and stuff already. And I was like, wait, what? And I'm looking at the car on FaceTime, and I couldn't even tell that the car was whatever they did. Yeah. So that's what calmed me down. And then when I finally got here and I saw the car in person, and he was like, pick out whatever spots to see if you could tell. And I could not tell. Yeah. I could not tell.
And that's, kudos to Brian at Fantasy Colors, but also our DYNOmatte. It just so happened that it is the exact same sheen. I would say a fairly trained eye. I've seen a lot of high-end cars, a lot of different, detailing, from polishing in different films and everything. And no matter the light that I've seen it in, it's nearly identical. You can't tell that, there's film on this part of the car and not that part. Now, I would say like 85-90% of the car is done. We did those live installs here, which is really cool.
That was cool.
And we do have another video to show in the events. If you guys want to check that out, make sure to do so. But to our point is it didn't take away from that finish at all. So those concerns, rest assured, the car is looking as good as it did when it came out of the paint booth. And I would argue a little bit better because we got some Damascus on it. And we had actually Casey, our videographer, who's starting to film the first install content, went by with our matte carbon, our gloss carbon, and held it up to the canard so you could kind of see it. And I sent you the picture of the Damascus too. I was like, I think the Damascus is the one. And another leap of faith on your part. But with these high-end cars, like, there's a little bit of a debate, obviously, with RWBs and the Porsche fanatics, so we can talk about that in a second. But with these high-end cars, you don't want something that's going to look cheap. And a lot of times that vinyl wrap and lesser products do just look cheap, and they take away from the overall quality and artwork that the car actually is.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a very good compliment. You might have a couple more touches on it. We'll decide what to do on the mirrors, essentially. But no, I think it looks really good. So last bit of the build I want to talk about, I guess two bits. One is the wheels. I think there's a really cool story there. Then the other is kind of what's coming up next for it.
Yes. So as far as the wheels go, I have I'm working with a lot of companies, and you guys at STEK is one of them. That's amazing. But as far as the wheels go, sorry, excuse me. As far as the wheels go, the brand is Evo 61 wheels, EVO 61 wheels. And the owner of that his name is Rodney. And me and Rodney, I was initially a customer of his on previous builds, and then me and him eventually became like best friends. And the reason why is because I'm very big on like customer service. I'm very big on, because I give the same. I always expect the same that I give, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
100%.
I always want to help. I always want to, wherever, I'm just one of those people that I like to give a lot, So when I feel that same energy reciprocated, it's like it forms long-lasting relationships. So that's what happened with me and Rodney. But the thing I love about Rodney is that with his brand and also with Rodney himself, he loves to give his customers full range of just designing your own wheel. Most companies, full freedom. Yeah, basically that's exactly what it is. Because most companies, they already have their designs that you just choose from what from those designs. Yeah. But Rodney's like, listen, if you have an idea, we can execute it. We'll make it happen. We'll do it on CAD, and we'll make it happen. So back to my previous wheels, and even with the first build, and even leading up to this, and even Brian's car that's got built over the past 2 days, was full freedom of our own design. So this design right here was basically like, I love kind of like the old school 5-star look. Yeah. That comes on like the F40, that Ferrari F40s. Kind of like the OZ Futuras. It's just a
lot of classics.
Yeah, and I was like, I wanted to go for a race, like kind of like a race car look. So I told Rodney, I said I want to hide all the bolts, the lugs, everything. I just want to make it clean, almost make it look like almost like a one-piece like monoblock in a sense, or even a two-piece. But
and it's actually a three-piece, right?
Yeah, it's a three-piece. Yeah. So we did hidden hardware. So you don't see any of the hardware, the bolts that go around that holds the three-piece together. And then Rodney he made his own, machined his own cover cap. So it's a two-piece cover cap. So it's a ring that goes on, and then it's the hex nut that almost looks like a center lock on like the, people who know what the center locks are. Yeah. And it came out awesome. He did little stuff like, if you look in the pockets of the spokes, it's like a little steplet, and that kind of pays homage to like the original Fuchs that come on these cars or whatever. I mean, not these cars, but the older air-cooled cars. Yeah. And we, and also paying homage to the center lock, which is also Porsche, like in the GT series and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to do little stuff, because even like my interior too, and I'm sort of leading into that, but if you look at my interior, it's kind of like inspired by like the original RS, like the 964, 993 RS spec, like how they come from factory. Yeah.
Brings that heritage.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to do some period correct stuff. So I think all come together, and it looks amazing, and especially with the R1 Concepts brakes behind it. I went with the full BBK front and rear, and even if you look at the car, I stayed with the yellow, which is the Porsche carbon, PCCB yellow, the carbon ceramic yellow. Yeah. And that was the thing. I was just like, I want to stick to kind of like that Porsche heritage at the same time, but add my own flair to it. And I think full circle, especially with the white accents off the purple. Yeah. Yeah, it came out compliment.
Yeah, and obviously you have a variety of different choices there too. But with the chrome barrels and then the white face wheels, it's a good look. And
chrome is always classy. Chrome is always classy. Like that's what I tell people. Chrome is always classy. Like if you want a classy look, do chrome. Chrome always gives you class. No matter how the car looks or whatever, do chrome and maintenance. Because if you do polish, it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of work because you always have to keep polishing. Yeah. Chrome, soap and water, wipe it right off. Or even I tell people glass cleaner. That's the best thing to do.
Cleans it up
no streaks, no nothing, and it's easy. It's easy. That's me. Ease of maintenance. That's how I am. So
simple, successful.
Yeah,
I like to say.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, car came together really well. And if you guys are curious, it will be at the R1 booth at SEMA. So Joe's another partner working with that brake company, and they have a huge variety of products, a lot of OEM plus options and whatnot. So definitely go check this car out at SEMA if you guys are making it out, and know that it's rocking a full body in our DYNOmatte with some really tasteful Damascus accents. We'll definitely show some B-roll too of the wheels, of the interior. Make sure that those yellow calipers also are matching the yellow stitching and some wave that you have inside the car. So it's very well done. It absolutely is.
Yeah. Like I said, I tried to tie in all the accents together, just little touches of stuff here and there. But the Damascus on top was like an icing on the cake. You know what I mean? I was nervous about it at first. Like you said, I'm very calculated with the things that I do, and it's funny because it was a reel from STEK USA, the page on Instagram that popped up, and it was I think it was a Cybertruck that was getting wrapped in the Damascus, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, the Damascus like film, but I was like, I can't. Where can I implement that? If I wanted to do it,
it's also a little over the top.
It's different, right? Yeah. And and most people, they would do like carbon. They would carbon accents and stuff. And I'm one of those guys that I love carbon, but I don't like just randomly throwing carbon at a car because that could also make or break a car, right? Yeah. So I was like, the Damascus is different. That would be cool. And I reached out to you about it, and I took the leap of faith, and And the funny thing is, even the wing, I wasn't even thinking about doing the wing. You suggested it when we were here. He was like, yo, you should do the wing to offset the canards. And I was like, he was like, well, worst case scenario, we could take it off if you don't like it. Yeah. And as soon as Jack laid it on the wing, I was like, oh yeah, it's a win. Yeah. It's a win.
Keeping that.
And all weekend, this fourth day that we're here.
Long weekend.
Yeah, people, it's been a 4-day build event. So this is the fourth day. So the car's been on display, and everyone that's been walking by the car, like even as loud with the paint and everything, people get pulled to the Damascus.
Yeah.
And they'll zoom in with their phones onto it. Mm-hmm. They'll see me. They'll say, dude, it looks sick. It's a nice addition. Some people came up to me and they were like, is this how it comes? This is the part. I was like, no. It's like a few feet over there is a table and there's a sample there. Yeah. They literally STEK and Prestige did it right there.
Yeah.
You know? And I think you got some more customers because a few people are like, oh yeah, this is gonna look sick on my car.
Yeah, and they're already planning like, okay, hood, roof, trunk, something like that.
But it makes it look elegant. It's weird because like the car's loud, and I was afraid that it was gonna be like almost too loud, like tacky in a sense.
Sure.
But it gives it like an elegant touch to it, like a very, like I said, the icing on the cake. So it came out very good. But
awesome.
Everybody could come check out the car. It's gonna be at SEMA in like 3 weeks, right?
Yeah,
so
that's coming up fast.
Yeah, R1 Concepts booth. It was R1 Concepts mixed with Evo 6-1 wheels. It's a combination booth. And it's going to be my car, it's going to be Brian's car, and then actually the other car that I mentioned, that was my old car, that was the double build with this with Roger. And you guys can come check it out. We're going to be in Central Hall, so pretty big booth because it's going to be all 3 cars in there. And I would say the journey has been amazing, man. I can't believe it. So many bucket list things happening. Many bucket list things happening for me this year, and I'm very thankful.
Well, I'm glad that we could be, a part of that journey for you, and I'm also really glad that we could give you your first, taste of a full body PPF. And I think, obviously, the car's busy for the next couple months, traveling back and forth, going out to SEMA, and then back home to the East Coast. But once you actually get a chance to drive it and see how much easier it is to take care of with the PPF too, especially being matte paint, like you're gonna come even further full circle. So it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool. I do want to wrap things up fairly soon here, but I am curious, what is your opinion on like the RWB? Obviously, you're a fanatic yourself, and there's other people that are, diehard Porsche fans, and they think it's kind of, defacing the car. It's not doing the justice. And so what would you say to someone like that as far as what is this RWB doing for the car? Why do you feel good about, going through this really long in-depth build process? One, obviously you're an enthusiast, but outside of just that kind of creative aspect of it too, where's the value for you to have this RWB, and what does it mean to you versus keeping it all original?
Well, first I would like to say that like people's difference of opinion is always welcomed, right? Like I can't control whether you like the car or not, or even if you like RWB or not, And some people will say it's not for them, which is fine because there's some cars that I'll say the same for, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And but I do feel that because of the internet, it also, feels like it gives people a platform to express that opinion when a lot of times you could just keep it to yourself.
Sure.
So, but like I welcome it. I don't, a lot of, I've had some negative responses to it, and it's fine. It doesn't affect me because I'm still going to enjoy the car. I built it for me. I didn't build it for everybody else, But as far as like what the RWB does for me and what it does for the car, like I've always been like when I really dove into the history of it, because Nakai is essentially a car, like he's a real genuine car guy. You know what I mean? Like everything that we embody as car guys, he's been doing it for like almost 40 years.
For longer.
For longer. He has 30 plus years in racing. He was one of the early drift guys, one of the popular drift guys back in the day when the drift scene started. A lot of people don't know that. And that's where the Rough World name came from, his AE86. And this was before he even got into 911s. Yeah. And Nakai holds Tsukuba lap records with Rotana, which is his 993 that makes like 750 horsepower. That thing weighs like 2,100 pounds. But he has lap records at Tsukuba, Trend Ring Motegi. He holds the Islas races, which is his own.
Yeah. He's in it.
Yeah, he's in it. Like he's in it. And a lot of like you got to respect the brand or even the owner where his passion is just in doing this and he doesn't care about anything else. And if as you see him, he's humble. He's even economically or however you want to say it, financially, whatever. Despite his success, it has not changed who he is. At the core factor of all of this, like he just loves what he does. This is it. So that's what drew me in. That was like the biggest thing for me. And it was just ultimately like I love German cars and I love also JDM. So to me, it was meshing the two together, meshing the two worlds. And I think I can't think of any other way that probably does it on such a large scale like this, where you can merge the JDM.
And at such a high quality level as well. And so, but like, I want to speak from like a mechanical side of it, Just like any other build,
the base platform is a major factor in how a car turns out. Yeah. So if you don't put a lot of work into or even having a good base platform to start with, builds don't normally work out the way that you want to.
You're chasing your tail.
Quality, So I tell people all the time, like, it's not Nakai that you should be blaming if you see cars that aren't done well. It's actually the owner.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Didn't set it up for success.
Because Nakai's part, he just comes in and installs the kit. You know? I mean, there was times where, back then before it blew up, Nakai would do everything. You could send the car to Japan to his shop, and he would do like a suspension. He would do motor work, all that stuff, you know. And they used to call it omakase style. Omakase style was basically, you would let him pick everything, design it. You wouldn't even know the color. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And he used to interview you and all that kind of stuff. But then when it really got big and, you know, he had to kind of
streamline a little bit.
Right. So that faded, but everything is up to the owner. Like, I'm using my car for example. Everything that you see in the car outside of just putting an RWB kit was my vision and my design, my color, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So I went crazy on the suspension on this car. Like I literally, like every suspension component has done it, like full monoball suspension, everything. Because I'm a driver. I love to drive. I'm not a straight line guy. I love turns. I love like grip. You know. So that was a big thing for me. So, cool. And I will say after like the transformation of this car, dude, the grip on this car is nuts. It's nuts. It's like, I had, you know, I've had a GT3, I had a GT3 RS, and I tell people it's a baby GT3 RS. I kid you not. And I'm not saying that just to like, I'm not getting paid by RWB. You know, this is not, you know, me endorsing it. I don't, you know, it does, whether you like it or not, that's on you. But I'm telling you from my experience and even some of the other cars that I've seen that are fully done, it's crazy. And I've had purist friends, like I'm talking about diehard purists that were against this. Drive my car, see my car completed, like visually and also physically feel it. Tell me, like they'll come up to me and whisper me, like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want one.
Awesome, man. Well, I think that kind of answers that question. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion, right? It's not going to be for everyone, but this car, you made it for you. And I think it's also going to bring a lot of joy and interest for other people in, which is great. But also at the end of the day, it is, you know, mechanically, masterfully engineered vehicle. So you're still getting a lot of that original heritage out of it.
Absolutely.
Which I think is really cool. And I know you got more plans for the car. You're doing engine stuff, all sorts of stuff.
I have no idea.
But we're going to wrap the podcast up there. If you guys are interested, definitely do follow Joe. It's going to be Joe_Aime is his handle across social media. We'll link that below as well. And then again, it's going to be out at SEMA. It's going to be out at more shows. So absolutely encourage you guys to follow on. It's just getting started, really. I'm sure these kind of things, you know, sometimes they're never done.
And if you guys want to see the build process of even this car or the car I had before, you could go on my YouTube channel as well. Speed Racer Joe, that's all separated. So Speed Racer Joe. And like you said, my Instagram, there's a lot of information on there at Joe_Aime. But I tell people all the time, if you have any questions, feel free. As you've seen, so many people was talking to me here, asking me questions. I'm very open. I'm very transparent about things. And I love people who are very into this, like who have the same passion, who share the same passion. And I have nothing, like I'm always happy to talk to people and meet new people. So come check it out.
Yeah, if you want your own RWB, this is a good guy to talk to, and maybe he can help you walk you through that process or even make some connections along the way. So, Joe, thank you so much for your time and jumping on the
Michael,
podcast.
Thank you, man. Yo, dude, I can't even emphasize this enough. I can't thank you guys enough. STEK is such a phenomenal team. I'm not just saying that. These guys also, Michael is awesome, man. And you made me feel welcome, and I like that. I like that about companies, dealing with other companies where like you could speak to somebody and they're like just as involved and you know, enthused as like even comes. And this is not even your car, and dude, you've been treating it like it's been yours, and that means a lot to me. You know.
Happy
That's
to.
awesome, man.
Glad you reached out, Joe. Glad we could have you on. Stay tuned, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching this.